And welcome everyone to the PCS Like a Pro show. I'm your host, Megan Harless, as always, and we've got a great show for you lined up today. Before we get into all of that, we've seen some things in the groups about, the expense of PCSing and what you do if for some reason you end up not having enough in your savings to be able to cover your expenses, or you run into emergency issues along the way. The first thing is that most service members usually have a GTC government travel card, or if they don't, they should be able to get one through their usually S1 personnel office of some sort. Additionally, we have some amazing service relief organizations. The Army is the Army Emergency Relief Organization, Marine Corps, I think it's the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, and then the Air Force and Coast Guard. Everyone has their own emergency relief societies, but these organizations can step in and help offer either 0% interest loans or grants, depending on your situation and your needs. But it's a great way to be able to get funds that you need without going into any crazy extra debt. On top of that, it's important to know that you can also get some advances on different pays. So if you have DLA, depending on your service branch, you can request DLA in advance. You can request pay advance. You can also request, if you're doing a PPM, up to 60% of your incentive pay up front to help cover some expenses. So you've got some options there to kind of help step in and catch whatever gap you may have in funding that you may need. But important to remember that you guys do have access to your emergency relief organizations for your service branches, and they're a great resource to be able to go to. They can help with a whole slew of things. A lot of them have a PCS funding line. Last couple of years, they've added pet expenses in there to the PCS funding. So that way, if you guys have issues with that, they can step in and help with that. You guys have your cars break down in the middle of your PCS, they can be able to step in and help with that as well. So don't forget about them when planning your PCS, and when you need to have those extra funds, and you start looking into all your different budgets and what everything may cost you. So they're a great resource, and make sure you check them out. So we're going to get into today because I'm really excited about this. I'm always excited when I get to have one of my friends on the show, because it's always like a fun little party and reunion. And so today is no different. So joining us today, we have Jeanell. Jeanell, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Can you just take a minute and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Jeanell, and I'm an Army wife. Woohoo, go Army, beat Navy. I am also an Army veteran. I was commissioned in 2007, and I was on active duty for 8 years, and then spent 2 years in the reserves, overseas, actually. And now just an Army wife, but I'm also an Army brat. My dad was in the Army, and he actually retired when I was a captain. So we served for, I think it was like 6 or 7 years together, not at the same duty station or anything, but at the same time. And yeah, I have one 5-year-old. He'll be 6 in a week. I can't believe it. And I have a couple of pets that you can see a picture of them. So yeah, I am here to share some tips and tricks that I've picked up over my 38 years of military PCSs.
I love hearing your story, just how cool it is of, you start off as a military child and then being able to serve simultaneously when your dad was serving as well, and just how cool that kind of unique situation and bond is. So you had this opportunity that you've PCSed as a child, a soldier, a spouse. So let's break this down a little bit. As a child, do you remember like what that was like, the process and the experience of PCSing, and in general, like what you thought then of all the frequent moving that you had to do?
Well, starting out, I in the middle of 3 girls. Each of us kind of had different experiences. I'm the only one of my sisters that only went to one high school. Both of my sisters went to 2. And like I said, my dad retired when I was in the Army, so our parents were still moving as we were in college growing up. It was just what we were used to. Especially when you move, if you're on a military base, you're not the new kid for very long. Somebody else is going to be new in a week. I don't ever recall moving like in the middle of summer. I felt like I always moved during the school year. I know now they try to streamline it, or maybe they did and I just wasn't thinking properly, but they try to streamline it where people move in the middle of summer. But I don't recall doing that. It was usually during the school year. There were a couple of times that we did not live near military bases, and that was a little bit harder because I was the new kid for 3 years out of high school. But my mom was always happy about it, so we were always happy about it. As we got a little older, because you would try out for clubs or groups or squads or whatever that start in the fall year of school, and then if you move in the summertime, you're missing out. So that was rough. I think my roughest move was between 8th and 9th grade. I was on like the yearbook staff for the upcoming year, and I had made the cheerleading squad for the upcoming year, and I had to move before I got to actually participate in any of it. So that was kind of sad. And I think it was the same thing for my older sister. She moved between her 9th and 10th grade year, and it was rough for her. My younger sister, though, she picked right up. She didn't care. She moved between 9th and 10th grade as well. And like she lettered in high school as a freshman and wore her letter jacket from her previous school for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade and didn't care. They belonged to school. But when it came to moving and how as a kid, my mom was meticulous. I mean, we used to dust. I mean, we had to dust our rooms, and don't come to my house because I don't dust. We spent just days and weeks leading up to it, like prepping and preparing our own rooms. That was our jobs. We had to make sure there was nothing under the beds, and my mom would give us totes, and we had to pack our stuff in the totes. But we were also on the day, and we had a lot of stuff. We were usually a 3 days of packers plus 1 or 2 days of loaders. And my mom she would give us zones. Like we weren't the kids that were told go outside and play. We had to be there. We were part of it. So we had zones. Like I would have, my bedroom and the bathroom and whichever room was next to it. And I was in charge of making sure that those movers stayed in line. We were there. We were told be in their space and make it always there. Want anybody to have any issues, and my mom was very good friends with the movers, but she wanted it known that we were going to be in the space and we weren't going to be tablet, which we didn't have then, but off to the side not paying attention. She wanted us in their space. So yeah,
I love hearing about that, how she had you guys involved in everything, because I make sure my kids are involved in all of it. So when we did our last PCS and we moved in, like 2 of my kids were outside with like the clipboards, and there were bingo sheets, and they were like checking off the numbers, and then one child was upstairs and directing traffic up there. My husband was directing traffic on the main floor, and I was floating through everything. And so it was just, it's kind of nice to hear, like, these are things that have been happening for like a while now, of having our kids involved in the cleaning, the prepping, and all of that. So I really just want to give your mom a big hug and be like, yes, like it's not something
I'll let her know.
So when you became a soldier and you had to then execute your own PCS, like, did you feel like you were more prepared from it because of your childhood experience? Like, how is that process and experience like?
I definitely think I was way more prepared since I grew up doing it. I had way less stuff as a single soldier and as a kid I do now. So when I was actually in school. My mom did my PCS pickup for me. She was involved in my first big one. I came back from Iraq and all my stuff had gone into storage. So not a PCS, but the same process. My mom actually was there to help me receive my household goods. So she was the one showing me. she was like, this is how you mark them off. She goes, if you don't know, you stop them. If you didn't hear what they said, or if they went too fast, or if they're coming in too quickly, stop them. Tell everybody to stop, take a break, put everything down. You get yourself caught up, because you're an extension of the Army. The Army is what they're paying the movers. So you, in small words, you're their boss. So you can tell them to take a break. You can tell them to stop. Don't be scared to say, hey, give me a minute. Got to get caught up. Everybody hold on a second. And she was like, always scissors and a pen, always. Move day or on the way out or on the way in, make sure you've got a pen, make sure you've got scissors, and make sure you, that's one thing I always have that's in my first night box, is what I call it. I've always got that stuff. So it wasn't, my moves as a single soldier were definitely not that, but they were all door to door, and very easy, because it was like one day of packing and one day of loading, or one whole day of packing and loading together, and that was it. So I now have a lot more junk.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I love that advice from your mom. And it's good to reiterate for everybody as you are preparing for your upcoming PCSs, that it's okay to slow them down and to stop them, and to make sure you know what's going on, and to make sure the numbers that are being, called off, and that just that you're in charge of it. It's your move. Don't just let stuff happen, but it's okay to stop them. And Megan Hansen joining us here, same things, that, loving that she taught you to be assertive and to slow them down, and to
Thanks, Megan.
make sure things are done. So absolutely. So through all of this, I mean, you've PCS as a child, now as a soldier, and then now you have this experience of PCSing as a spouse. So can you compare some of the experience from all three of those, from child to soldier to spouse? Was it all very similar? Was there anything that was different because now you're seeing it from a different perspective?
Well, as a kid, I only had, my Barbies that I was in charge of, that I had to deal with packing up beforehand. And it was kind of one of those things like, oh, well, if something breaks, my mom and dad can get me a new one. Now I am a Polish pottery collector. And all of my Polish pottery is right over here I have so much of it. So that is one of the things I have, and I've not had movers or say, oh, you can't have a high list. I see people kind of talk about it all the time, where they've had movers deny them something for high value, but I haven't, and I'm very, I'm hearing that. And I'm making sure all of this stuff, I'll put labels in each of the cabinets and say, like, this is Polish pottery. It is high value. It's very hard to find in the States, and it's more expensive here. It kills me. But again, moving to Fort Leavenworth, so I've got the West End Polish pottery shop I can go to coming up soon. But as a soldier, it was also like, I didn't have great stuff either. I mean, here's my Army stuff, and I made sure that they packed that, and, pro gear. The labeling, I think, was one of the biggest things that I learned as a kid, as a soldier, and now as a spouse. Like, what I carried with me is big on labeling and having it labeled before they show up. I'll have lists upon lists upon lists, and I make sure that I'm carrying those lists around. I use like bright pink or bright orange Post-it notes that I'll put on things. And I have like printer paper that I use, my big giant fat permanent black marker that I write like the labels on, and I tape that to everything. That way, the thing is, like, if it's hard for me to remember certain things, then when I do a walkthrough, it's going to be that much more difficult for them, because it's their stuff. So I make sure to have labels on everything as we go throughout, and I'm constantly double checking. So I think that thing that I've carried on, like, from my mom as a kid. My first PCS as a spouse and not the soldier was from Fort Drum to Germany. So that was my first one as an Oconus that I can remember. I lived in Germany as a kid, but I don't remember that move. So that one was, I mean, I was calling my mom daily trying to get tips and prep and figure stuff out. And we had a dog and a cat and how to get the pets overseas and do this, that, and the other thing. But I'm very assertive, and it's always been me. My husband stands in the background. Usually we get in arguments or disagreements on moving days because he stands in the background, and I'm like, you need to make sure our boxes aren't sitting outside in the driveway while it's raining right now. Like, they need to be, if they're going outside, they need to be getting put right on the truck, not sitting outside waiting for somebody to come and put it on the truck. Otherwise they can stage it in the garage. So I think a lot of the times they'll come in, like the movers will come in and they look at my husband and kind of start talking to him because he's obviously the soldier, which happened when we were dual military anyways. They didn't automatically look at me as the soldier. They just looked at him. But I will immediately start. I'm the one, I've got the clipboard. I take over. I run the show. That's something, I mean, that's how my mom was. And I think most of my moves, I feel like my dad was at work as a kid, and then soldier obviously by myself, and my mom helped me. And I think for my couple of moves that my mom helped me, she took control and she was the boss and it wasn't me. And they were a little bit confused about that, but hey, she did it for longer than I had, obviously. And so nowadays it's like, it's usually at the beginning, like when they start talking to my husband, and then I take over and I show them, hey, I'm the one who knows where all the stuff is. And then they come to me and treat me like I'm the one running the show while my husband sits in the background finishing work or whatever he's doing. So
I feel like that's a very common story. Because kind of, similar here. My husband's gotten better as the years have gone on. We had a very horrible experience. And then he was just like, I realize I need to be more involved, but you need to tell me what to do. So he's better at it now. But the same thing, they come in, they start talking to him. And he's like, before you say any more, like, this is my wife. You need to talk to her. She's the one that handles all of this. And I'll just like, hi, let me tell you what needs to happen now. And then the whole Polish pottery, like, yes, we've got a good collection of that too. And so when you arrive, we're going to have some coffee dates and Polish pottery dates. And I'm very excited about that.
I can't wait.
Half of ours, I think, came from when we were stationed the first time here at Leavenworth. The other half came from when I took a week to go to Poland and brought back a large suitcase full of it.
Yes, that's the way to go.
I mean, we should just plan one of those trips as well.
Let's do it.
My passport is still good. Like, yes, done. So yes, you're going to move here, and then we're going to plan a Poland trip. So anybody else watching, you want to go to Poland with us, let us know. We're going to plan something great. It's going to be awesome. So you kind of led into your Oconus PCS that you had. So how did this Oconus PCS experience kind of differ from the Conus PCSs that you've had?
So a few things. When we do our Conus PCSs, we can take our dogs to doggy daycare. We can board them. We can bring them to my parents' house and leave them there for a couple of days while we're doing things, while we're doing the actual driving. That way the dogs don't have to deal with that kind of stuff, and they don't have to be in the house with strangers here for 4 or 5 days at a time. When you're going Oconus, you don't have that real option because you got to bring them with you, unless you have somebody who's going to send them later. So when we PCS to Europe, we had a dog and 2 cats, and we could only bring 2 pets with us. So one cat went to live with my parents, and now my mom won't give him back. So we had the dog and the cat. And I mean, we had to drive. So our dog is a Husky German Shepherd mix. And we were at Fort Drum. So the close airport there is in Syracuse, which is a smaller airport. And they could not fit our dog kennel on the airplane there. But they knew that ahead of time. So it wasn't an issue. We were flying out of Baltimore. We were on the military rotator. I forget what it's called. But we were told, hey, you guys have to drive down to Baltimore because your dog's on the airplane. So luckily, we had my sister-in-law was in Washington, D.C., so we went down and there, and then we took the dog with us. My biggest thing with that was it was such a long couple of days for the dog and the cat in their kennels because you have to get to the airport so far ahead of time. There is, and I mean, and we were just waiting in line. You don't want to take the dog to go outside to go potty or something, and then all of a sudden, like, lose your spot in line or something happens, and because like communicating with you what's going on, and you're standing in line for 7 hours. There is like a dog break, potty break thing outside. I think it was on like AstroTurf or something, so it was fake grass, and of course, my dog is like, I'm not going on this. Their cat kennel, because we had both of them. We were lucky enough to get both of our pets on the flight with us. There were a lot of other families who could not get their pets because when you go on that rotator, I think they only have like spots for 10 pets under in the belly of the plane, and we had 2 of those spots. We had a large Maine Coon mix, and so he was in a large crate. He couldn't go underneath the seat. He was too big. So my big thing about the cat, and I've told people this when they PCS and any kind of PCS overseas or CONUS, we had one of those tinfoil pans that I packed, like they usually come in like a 2-pack. I packed them in my suitcase and I had a big like 2-gallon Ziploc bag full of cat litter. So I brought that with me because when you PCS, you're not automatically going to your hotel or your duty station the first night there. So when we flew into Kaiserslautern, I think, which is like a 9-hour drive from there to Hohenfels, which is where we were stationed. And we got there. It took forever to get through and get our bags and get our pets and all that stuff. And then we got loaded on buses and we were taken to a local hotel for that first night. So it's the first time in, I mean, like 18 hours since my cat has been out of his kennel. And you know, what are you going to do for them? So I had this tinfoil pan and I put the tinfoil pan out and I poured some of the litter in. My cat didn't go to the bathroom. He held it. He was not going to do that. He hid under the bed at that hotel the whole time. And then the next day we had to get on another bus and drive. And it took us over 8 hours. Our bus broke down. We had to stop on the side of the Autobahn and wait for another bus to come and pick us up because our bus broke down. So we get all luggage and we were the only people on the bus that had pets, and the pets go underneath the bus where the luggage goes. And of course we've got this giant and there were lots of stairs and scuffs from other people because we were taking up so much space because the dog ate. And then we wait on the Autobahn for another bus to pick us. Then we go to your first to off people. And while we were there, the bus driver quit because in Europe, they are very strict with their labor laws. And he had already been working for 8 or 9 hours, whatever, 8 hours, I think it was. So he was like, I'm done. So he just left us. And we're just sitting there waiting for another bus driver. So, and I've got my dog and my cat. So then another bus driver shows up who he was at the end of his shift, but felt bad for all the people going to Hohenfels. So he drove us to Hohenfels and we get dropped off at Hohenfels. And it's like, we get dropped off at, you know, building 1 or whatever it is, like the ACS type building. It's, I don't know if it was a Sunday night or a Monday night, whatever it was, but everything was closed. So it was after 6 o'clock. So well, there wasn't even a shop out there, but the food court, the very, very teeny tiny itty bitty little food court that has like an Anthony's Pizza and a Burger King was closed. The pitch was super, super small. They closed at like 6 o'clock or whatever. So everything is closed. Luckily, we had a fantastic sponsor and he and his wife came, and they had picked us up. And what we did, we had to take the dog kennel apart to get it in his car, and he drove it up to the hotel for us. And his wife and I walked with the dog on the leash up to the hotel, and they were amazing. They had checked into our room for us, luckily. And they brought dog treats for us and cat treats for us. And they brought some local beer and a bottle of wine. And they had like some sandwich stuff. And I cried because I was so stressed and I was so exhausted and starving because we stopped at like a McDonald's. Well, we stopped at a gas station that had a McDonald's when we were on our journey. And the line at the McDonald's was so long. So I waited in the line and I got like nuggets. Husband go get something else along the way. We didn't get anything else along the way. And those chicken nuggets were delicious. But they took such great care of us. I mean, it was such a great feeling because there were other people that were just standing there. Their sponsors weren't there. They didn't know what to do. Your cell phones don't work. So that's just something you have to think about. As far as prep goes for getting ready to PCS overseas, you're going to be without your household goods for at least 3 months. It is such a long time. So for us, it's, do you want to be without your stuff in your home that you currently live in the US, where you know you can go to Target or Walmart down the street and get something if you need to. You can go to the fast food place. You can go wherever you need to go easily. Or like, are you comfortable with being without your stuff in that situation? Or are you comfortable being without it where you don't know where you're going to be? You don't know how you're going to get around. You don't know that. So we always shipped our stuff way early on the front end, like going there and coming back from overseas. We knew that we were going to be without stuff for such a long time, and it was easier to be without our household goods in a situation like that we were more comfortable in already, which was the one where we were currently living. You also, when you PCS overseas, company baggage, I me how many pounds that is. I don't think you can send for sure, but you can send UAB, and it goes on an airplane, I believe, instead of on a boat. So it's a lot quicker to get. So what you could do is you could either keep your UAB at your bonus residence, and that might be something like a really small TV that you've got a box for that's got like a DVD player like automatically in it. You know, you could use that. Like a blow up mattress, a pot and a pan, sheets, pillows, curtains or something, or shower curtains, something like that. So you can either ship your UAB super early so that it's already there once you arrive, or you can use that at your CONUS residence and ship it later and it arrive at the exact same time that your household goods are arriving. But at least you, when you were CONUS at your UAB, we would ship our UAB super early so that it was there when we arrived. We also mailed stuff the post office. So I know that I mailed, I think, a cat litter. I mailed a TV. I knew that I was going to be, now this was before, I didn't have any kids when we PCS'd. So this is just me being, first world problems. So I mailed a DVD. I had, it was like a DVD. So I mailed that because I knew I was going to be bored. So I mailed that one, and then I mailed sheets, the things that didn't fit in my UAB. And again, like UAB and household goods pickup, they have to be scheduled like separately. So as soon as you go through, I don't even remember what the term is. It's been such a long time since I was out of the Army, and I don't go to these meetings anymore. But whenever you go to like your RFO brief or whatever it's called when you're PCSing overseas at your duty station, just make sure you know, like, hey, I have to schedule UAB separately from household goods. And you want to make sure you just think about like the stuff that you absolutely can't live without. And if you can live without it, you only want to live without it for a short period of time. So I was really long-winded on that one. Sorry, I had a lot to say.
No, it's all good. Because we get a lot of questions about Oconus moves. Especially a lot of first-time Oconus movers. And the UAB, that yes, it's no furniture, except you can put a crib in there because that's a safety concern for babies. Otherwise, it's no furniture. It does go if you're below 1,000 pounds on your UAB, closer to the 500 to 800 range. It does go by plane. Otherwise, you're over, then it may go by boat, just because of the weight and the restrictions on aircrafts and everything. But most people usually are really good with that. But yeah, you have that ability, which is really great that people can plan to either ship it really early to be able to have stuff waiting there for them, or hold on to it and ship it as the last thing, to be able to have stuff stateside for as long as possible. With all of this, you own and run your own business as well. And I want to show you all, like, she made me this wonderful mug that I love. So if you take a look at it, all of the blue and white inventory tags, those actually came off of our furniture. I sent them to her and said, can you make this for me? And she did, and it's fabulous, and I love it. So you have your own business that you run. So how do you navigate moving that and all of the materials and equipment that you have from one location to the next?
So I will say that I didn't have my business when I was overseas, so none of this, it does not apply to the Oconus moves. This is just Conus. I start a couple of months ahead of time, making sure that I have posted to my group, my page, Instagram, to all of my social media outlets that I am moving and I am getting rid of my inventory. That means if I am out of coffee mug with a handle mugs, I'm not ordering more. Because normally, like, I will post when I'm getting low on an inventory for something, and if somebody is interested in it, then I will I'll order more. I'll order another case of whatever it is, or I'll get more glitter or something like that. But I have already posted that once I'm out of something, I'm out of it. I do ship, so I know that really helps people. It eases their mind because I can ship the items. Obviously, you got yours. But one of the things is I am trying to use up as much of my inventory as possible. I've had issues in the past. I know you and I have talked about it. Actually, the first time was moving out of Fort Leavenworth, where they did not recognize my business as spouse pro gear. So it wasn't covered. Now, we didn't go overweight, so it wasn't a big deal. But moving from Fort Stewart to Fort Polk, which is where we currently are, they were like, oh yeah, you have a business? Okay, sure. Again, we didn't go overweight, so it really didn't matter, but I'm just so nervous that this next move, we might be overweight. So I try to use up as much of my supplies as possible. I also myself. When we moved from Fort Leavenworth to Fort Stewart, I didn't have time of image. Just started. Leavenworth was the first place that I started my business. So for the most part, all I had were the actual tumblers. I did not have, because I do a lot of stuff. I sew, I make air fresheners. I didn't have all of that back then. I just did the tumblers, and for the most part, I only had 2 sizes. So I just had the boxes of tumblers, so it wasn't difficult. Coming from Fort Stewart to Fort Polk, I had way more stuff. And we were selling our house there, so I had to get the house ready for pictures and to show. So I actually packed up a little bit earlier there, and the only thing that I left out when I was there was my sewing machine, because that was much easier to clean up than the tumblers, because with tumblers I use epoxy and it's very messy and it has an aroma. So I had to thoroughly clean all of that up beforehand. But I packed everything myself. I used those big black and yellow totes, and I put everything in boxes in those totes. I have like over 300 bottles of glitter. Don't judge me. But I put saran wrap on top of the bottle of glitter, and then I screw the lid on. That way it's not going to spill out. The only way it's going to spill is if the whole jar breaks. But I pack it all myself, and for the most part, I bring it in the car with me. So that's what's going to go in the car with me. Now, it's hard when you have pets because, hey, I got to fit the dogs in the car as well. And I have a kid and I got to bring his stuff too. But we have 2 cars. So we PCS with 2 cars. So my husband can take like our more important documents with him and suitcases and stuff like that. But again, I mail things. So this time I know, like, when we're moving to Fort Leavenworth. So I am going to my younger sister. She lives in Kansas City. And so I will be mailing things to her. Maybe I'll mail stuff to you, Megan, who knows? But I utilize the mail system, and I mail people my stuff. They don't want it weighed. I don't want me the best care of my. So as far as my product and my materials go that I need, that I have inventory and like everything is marked down of what I've got, where it came from, and how much I have, and that stuff is all going to get marked. And I write on the box like what is in which box, which is in which tote. That way, as soon as I get there, I can unpack stuff and I can start right back up. Like, for instance, we're leaving in April, and I have already posted at the end of Christmas. I posted, hey, I'm going to open back up because I close orders around Christmas time. But I said I'm opening back up, but I'm only working through the end of February. So you have to get your orders in now because I need time to clean and to prep for the move. And it's mostly I have to clean that craft room. But when I'm done cleaning it, you would never know that there was somebody who had a glitter obsession that worked in there.
No, I love that. I would say I have several mugs that you've made for me, and they're all sparkly with glitter. And I'm just like, it is perfect.
My favorite one that you have is that green one,
which is actually sitting up there on my shelf.
Perfect.
It's probably hard to see with the lighting, but it's up there.
Yep,
but no, I love it. It's like the perfect kind of like army green in there. And so it's just like, yes. Because again, go Army. We love all of our branches here, but we are an Army family. And so go Army and everything. So with all your unique experiences that you've had, what are some lessons that you've learned along the way, or things that you wish you knew about PCSing that you want to be able to pass on to others?
So I have, I think, 3 big things, and I wrote them down. So I'm going to be looking down a little bit because I want to make sure that I get it right. The first one, which I talked about at the beginning, is feel free to take breaks. And that's one that I learned from my mom. Tell the movers to stop. If you're not comfortable with what they're packing or how fast they're going, or tell them to stop. And that goes for packing days and like loading and unloading days. Now, I wouldn't do it all the time. You don't want to make them mad, but you need to be comfortable with what you're doing. Take breaks. That one of the things another thing on big time was ask the movers not to pack things from different rooms together, if that makes sense. Don't pack something from my kitchen in the same box as something from the living room. Have all of those boxes be separate. It makes it easy for stuff when you arrive for where to go and how to find it, but it also is going to keep things from breaking. I don't know how many times I've seen people say they have one of those big stand mixers and it was packed with pillows. I mean, you've ruined the pillows. The stand mixer's probably ruined now because all of the oil fell out of it. So ask them, keep items together. And if you have a box that's not full from the living room, ask them not to tape it up and to just leave it off to the side. That way you can decide what's going to go in there with your living room items. That's one. And that's something I learned from my mom, and I have taken it every step of the way. I hate finding my like my kitchen pots in a suitcase that was stored. How does that happen? So I have to move items from room to room. The next thing is I pack a first night box that I take with. I love movers if they have an extra, they all bring in extra boxes, extra packaging, or have to do with me. But I first night box is intended for the first night that you're at your next house. It always includes shower curtain, shower curtain. It's not just new one. Something you may have a shower curtain and you're going to want to take a shower and be like, oh crap, what am I supposed to do? Shower curtain liner and hooks. Furniture sliders, because when your stuff gets delivered and you've got these heavy duty hutches from Europe, you're going to want those big furniture sliders where one side is felt, so it slides across the ground, and the other side is like a black, I don't know, but it keeps it from moving. So those things, I always have some of those in my first night box. A screwdriver or a drill, because ultimately the movers are going to lose theirs, or they're going to put something together wrong. Paper plates and silverware, which you can buy that like when you get there, but it's something that I always want to have right off the bat. A roll of toilet paper and a roll of paper towels. The things that I told you guys before, tape, which usually is like painter's tape, scissors, and a big giant permanent marker. And those are more so like the big giant permanent marker I keep on me every single day that the movers are at my house, when we're when we're prepping to PCS and we're getting ready to load the truck. I have one of those markers with me, because what I do is I go through and I will mark the boxes like bedroom 1. And I said before, I'm big on labels. So I use my labels when we move. I'll take just a piece of paper, 8x11, whatever piece of paper, and I write a big 1 on it. That way, when a box is coming in, I'm not trying to search on the bingo sheet to figure out what that box is when they're like, oh, 487. I have no idea what's in that box. But when I see the box has a big giant 2 on it, I know it's going in my guest room. So I can say that goes upstairs in room number 2. So it's a lot easier for me and it's a lot easier for them. I also will take measurements of my furniture. So like, again, this like hutch furniture, I have the measurements of that one and my other one. And I keep those measurements like written down in my phone, and my couch and like bigger furniture items. I keep those measurements written down. That way, when we move, I can measure the walls and see what I'm going to put somewhere. That way I know ahead of time. And then I'll put a label on the wall that says, short hutch, tall hutch, brown couch, black couch. And I've had movers say, this is awesome that you have this here, because then they come in with furniture and they're not standing there holding heavy furniture where I'm like, I don't know which wall I want you to put that on. So I've had the movers compliment that before. So it's always one of the things, like labels of where you want furniture, and label your boxes and label your rooms to match of where you want stuff. It's just so much easier than saying like, oh, the guest room, or oh, the bathroom, or oh, the room upstairs second on the left. Have 3, 4, and then label your rooms upstairs 1, 2, 3, 4. Another big one is I always have one unload and puts it down. It's off box and on the counter or wherever I'm staying with, he puts it down. And the last move, our move from Fort Stewart to Fort Polk, stopped all movers, and I had a guy and I said, hey, do that. He was telling me, well, this is a garage, and then bring her the so she can work it off. That is, if something is broken or it's not working, then how do I know what box it was? Just took the sticker off of it. So I've had it almost every single move. I have to do this, and it's like usually it's a guy who wants to go fast right now, he's just going. He's getting stuff off the truck. He's bringing it in. He knows what room it goes in because I've got those labels on it. So he's just bringing it up. And then he brings the stickers down on it, and he won't even like this. Usually this guy doesn't say 2 words to me, but I have to stop them from doing that, because if there is a box that has something broken in it, I don't know what box it was now for my claim. If my weed eater or something is broken, or it won't turn on or something like that. I don't know which, and I know at the end of the day, as long, they all say lawn tools, even though they're not supposed to, but it'll say yard tools on it. And I don't know which of the yard tools it was that they broke. So stop them from just bringing you the sticker. Make sure you are seeing it yourself as they are bringing it in. That way they're not sneaking something by you. We had that issue last time because they brought the sticker down to me and it was a broken piece of furniture. And I had gone upstairs later and found it and said, hey, you guys just delivered this broken piece of furniture. One other, like, sorry, we'll take it back downstairs. Label. That's another thing. I put the numbers on the boxes, the numbers on the rooms. I put labels on the wall of where I want stuff to go. And I can write the measurements on that paper to tape up to the wall. And just like the label my mom for years.
No, we are a big fan of all the labels in this house. So I love hearing when other people utilize that too. And as you see that things are broken as well, use your phone and just go ahead and snap a picture of the damage as well. So you already got that marked as delivery day. And in the pictures, it shows that it's actual delivery day because there's usually other feet in the background or debris or boxes or whatever, the moving truck. Just go ahead and snap that picture of what that damage is as well. As we begin to wrap up today, I've got 2 questions that I love to ask every military spouse that I have on the show and veteran as well, because we all have different ideas of what it is. So what is your favorite duty station that you've been at and why was it your favorite?
So I'm going to get so much flack for this, but my favorite duty station is not Hohenfels, Germany. It's Fort Polk. I love it here. I mean, it could be, this is a first duty station post. So that could be it. We have a great community. My 6-year-old can ride his bike up and down the street. There's a lot of people who don't like Fort Polk because it's in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing to do. It's an indirect target. But so we're all in the same boat. So everybody knows they have to make it better because of how much it sucks. But because you do, so you have such everybody boat of having nothing to do, if that makes sense. My favorite duty station used to be Fort Chuka, and I was stationed there twice, and it's because there's really not much to do there. So you're just hanging out with friends, going to Buffalo Wild Wings because that's the only thing there is to do. But it's also, I have great neighbors. We really lucked out with the neighborhood that we moved into on post. I have a really great group of friends, and they really make it so much more enjoyable. And I really like the Cajun culture here. The people in town are just really nice. Everybody is super talkative and like they go out of their way to make you feel welcome. But I really like the food. It's just something different that I'm not used to. And I'm a very, very picky eater. I'm a picky person in general, but I'm a picky eater and I just like all of the food here. I learned how to make gumbo. A friend of mine taught me how to make gumbo, so I can make it for you when I get there. It's delicious. I love it. But it's Fort Polk. I mean, I know that there's some duty stations, I guess, like they get extra like MWR funds for things because there's not stuff around here. And Fort Polk is one of those duty stations. So the first year that we were here, Toby Keith came out. We had a free concert from Toby Keith. And we got to walk to it because it was just up the street. There's like, I think once a quarter they do these, they call it Friday Night Live, and they do giveaways and they've got like a theme. So we've got a Mardi Gras one coming up. I went to it last year and I tried crawfish for the first time, which the first time I tried it, I didn't really like it. But then my neighborhood, we did a big crawfish boil and I loved it. It was awesome. So I really like Fort Polk and I will miss it. It's the people for the most part. I'm really gonna miss the people, but excuse me. Excuse me. But I'm gonna miss it when we leave. It's been really good for our family. My husband works a lot, but since we're on post, he gets to come home for lunch. I'm not waiting for him for an hour after he should be home because he's got to drive through traffic. So it's been really fun and I like it and I will miss it. And it's what you make of it. I'm going to say that again. I know everybody says that. It's what you make of it here.
Yeah, no, definitely. And community and food, it seems to be a very common thread that we hear when we ask a lot of people, why is it your favorite duty station? A lot of it's the community and the people that you meet and the friends that you make, that no matter where you're at, if you've got those people, it's like the best place ever. And so you definitely hear that a lot about some of those less than desirable locations. I feel like you're kind of putting it out there too into the Army universe that probably after Leavenworth, you guys are going to like Fort Irwin or another like middle of nowhere.
Do not wish that on me, Megan. Oh, Megan, do not. If Peyton, excuse me, if my husband has to be the senior intel officer at Fort Irwin, I'm moving home. I'm not going.
We did just stay here at Leavenworth with us.
Okay, if we have to go to Fort Irwin, that's it. Like, I do not want that. Do not, is Army cop, do not send Fort Irwin. No.
Because you've been to all the other kind of remote-ish type of locations. I feel like that's the last one missing from your list of places, besides without going to like Alaska or something.
I want to go there because it's cold. My younger sister and her husband were stationed there and she absolutely loved it, but it's too cold. I can't handle that. No, thanks. I like the sun and the beach. I don't want the cold and the snow and the dark. We did Fort Drum already. Okay. Come on.
The last question I like to ask everybody is a piece of advice that you would want to pass on to other spouses.
I have two things. One, which ties back into why I like Fort Polk, get out there and participate. Join the FRG. Give it a chance. Join the Spouses Club. Give it a chance. So the Spouses Club that we have here, we have all these different sub-clubs for the Spouses Club, and they are great. We have so many people show up and you get to make so many friends, and it might be hard. Like if you are an introverted person, which I clearly am not, it might be very difficult like the first time, but get yourself an extroverted friend and just go with them to things. They'll bring you with them. That's all. Just they'll bring you. They'll force you to talk to people. So get involved. The second thing, which kind of goes into that, take everything that everybody says with a grain of salt. So I had a friend before moving to Fort Polk who I was like, oh my God, we're going to Fort Polk. I'm going to hate it so much. I don't like being there. I've been to Fort Polk before. I don't want to go there. And she said, listen, I cried. And everybody says this. I cried when I found out we were going to Fort Polk, but I cried when I left it. And I hear that from so many people. So, but then there are people here who absolutely hate it. And they go home because there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. Well, you have to make something to do. You have to find a group of people. You have to find something. So when you take everything that everybody says with a grain of salt, somebody might say like, oh, I don't participate in the FRGs because it's just drama and everybody talks. So then you have that person who's like, oh, well, I was going to, but if it's just drama, I don't want to join. But you might find your people there, and everybody talks about the tribe. You might find your tribe in that group of people. And you might find that you like, maybe you've got like a bowling league or something and you might find that it's awesome and that you guys have so much fun. Like Fort Polk we opened up, I don't know what time, when it was last year at some point, Fort Polk opened up this awesome bowling alley on post. And it's so nice and clean and it's fun and the kids love it. And the food's pretty good that they have there. I mean, just try stuff. Don't naysay before you do something. Just give it a chance first. And some people, you might have to give it 2 chances. Like, I'm a really weird person when you first meet me. I either come off shy or I come off really, really, which is more often I come off very overbearing. But I'm not so bad. I mean, so just give it a chance first. And that's my biggest thing, is just give everything a chance. Get out there and participate and learn for yourself. Don't take somebody else's word for it.
Absolutely. And such great advice to wrap up today on. And that's one of the things I always ask, why was a place your favorite? Just because, everybody has their own opinions, and why it might have been great for one person was not great for someone else, because life seasons and experiences and where you're at and, career and things can also have a big impact on why a place may or may not have been a good location for you and your family. So definitely taking things with a grain of salt and getting out there and trying. And I love how you say, just go find yourself an extrovert friend. That's how I've met a lot of my friends.
Yes.
You just need to find, and if you're an
Yes.
extrovert and you see an introvert person that's like at a thing that you're participating in, just go adopt them and just make them your friend. Because they need someone to help them make friends. Totally been there, done that. And it's one of the go-to methods of how you meet people too. So yeah.
As extroverts, like, we might need somebody to calm us down a little bit. So having that introverted friend who can be like, you're just being too loud right now. That's good for us too.
And that introvert friend that says, like, instead of going out again tonight, like, what if you just like come over and we eat cookies and watch a movie and like not be around
Disney
so many
movie.
people this weekend?
Yes.
And it's just like, that
Right.
sounds great as well. Like, yes, we can do that.
Yes.
So yeah. So thank you so much for joining us and being on our show today and taking time out of your planning for your PCS to join us.
Thank you for having me today.
No, always. And you're always welcome back anytime, which I might have you come back after your PCS to be able to share your PCS into Leavenworth for the second time. If those of you watching don't know, Leavenworth is a very unique installation because we have the giant schoolhouse here, and the number of people that PCS and PC out in a 4-week period is just very different and hard and unique and sometimes catastrophic in different ways. So I might have you back to talk about your second PCS and comparing it to your first one.
Okay.
And the difference of that. Everybody else watching with us, thank you for taking time out of your days as well to join us here. Join us next week. Next week, we've got a great show. We're going to have some moving industry personnel folks on the show, and it's going to be Ask a Mover. So all of those questions you've got burning as to why does something have to happen this way or that way, or whatever it is, why can my stuff not sit on the truck until I arrive 2 days later? Why does it have to go to storage? All of those questions you've got, we're going to ask them and play Ask a Mover. So if you've got questions, join in next week, same time, same place, and bring all your questions. I'd love to play Let's Stump the Mover, but it'll be fun. It'll be a good time. So make sure you mark it on your calendar and join us then. If you're going through a PCS, you've got questions, concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're happy to help connect you to the resource or the office or the person that you need to connect with to help through your issue. And until then, remember, take care of each other.